If you're used to listening to this podcast on Blog Talk Radio, we're moving. You can find content and podcast streaming on talentculture.com or iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite place to listen in. Starting next week, our show will no longer air on Blog Talk Radio, so please follow us and continue the conversation. On today's Work Trends podcast, we're talking how to have fun with Nick G. Welcome to the Work Trends podcast from Talent Culture. I'm your host, Meghan M. Bureau. Every week, I interview interesting people and brands who are reimagining work. For more information, be sure to check us out at talentculture.com and join us live on Twitter every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern using the hashtag WorkTrends. Welcome, everyone, to the March 7th, 2018 edition of Work Trends, hashtag WorkTrends. Don't forget that. Today's topic is deliver happiness, increase profits. According to our Work Trends guest today, Nick G, I'll call him. He's so cool, by the way. I'm excited to have him here. Research continues to show that happy employees lead to bottom line business improvement. The workplace evolution, everybody, right? Spurred by those millennials who will compromise 75% of the workplace by 2025 means that companies that don't embrace it, they're going to be history. I know I've been saying this for a while and I'm going to keep saying it. It's just reality, right? So Nick G is the founder of The Fun Department, a consulting and training company that has been featured on CNN, BBC News, Washington Post, TEDx, and numerous other media outlets. He is known, get this everybody, as the godfather of fun. He began his company after experiencing firsthand the enhanced culture and business results of fun. How cool is that? During his 20-year corporate management tenure with a company that embraced the work hard, play hard culture. He is also the co-author of the book, Playing It Forward. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Meghan. Great to be with you.
And how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Gianoulis, or anything close to
Gianoulis.
You got it.
Well, what's happening in your world? Where are you today?
Life is good. I am in Wilmington, Delaware, which is world headquarters for the Fun Department. Little Wilmington, of all places, but it's home base for our company and where I am today. So
very cool.
I be home for a change because I travel quite a bit.
I bet you do. You're a busy guy.
Busy guy these days, yes.
So tell us, what's exciting to you about this topic, and subsequently, what prompted you to write the book Playing It Forward?
So the genesis for the company and ultimately the book was born out of the experience you mentioned earlier. So working in a corporate environment with a work hard, play hard culture. And I just gravitated towards the play hard, to be honest, because I already knew how to work hard, but I was fascinated by how this company had such high productivity, great retention, profitability in a very competitive industry. So my theory, or hypothesis, if you will, is that it was really based on this culture of play and fun. And so I incorporated it into my own management style, and as a young manager, with great success. So it was really working well for me. And then I thought, wow, maybe fun, could be more of a process than an event, because we typically did long events after work, a lot of drinking after work, if anybody knows that type of fun.
We know nothing about that here, Nick, at Talent Culture.
Some of our guests know. And we still do that from time to time. But what I realized is that fun that happened after work, especially on a weekend, became less and less attractive over the years. And nationally, that was the case. The statistics bore that out. So I thought, why not take those euphoric but fleeting feelings that come from bigger events and break them up consistently into small pieces during the course of the year and treat fun as a process on company time. And that was what I did. So I started a committee and we planned these fun events, and it was wildly successful. And I thought, wow, this is a business. Everybody should have a fun department. So I started, that was the genesis, obviously, for the name of the company and starting the company. So it started more on theory and a hunch. There wasn't a lot of data, but thankfully there is today.
And what year are we talking? I mean, you've had a 20-year career. Give our audience an idea of context.
Oh, yeah, so I'm going to really age myself here. So 20 years I was with this company, in this company called United Electric, and the company, the fund department, is 12 years old. So I started in around 05, 06 is when the company actually started. So 20 years prior to that, I was with this company, United, and really experienced firsthand, creating fun in the workplace without a lot of experience or certainly the knowledge that I have today.
Yeah, and there's no question this is a cultural idea of, how people look at fun now versus what they were doing 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. It's just completely changed. So, but I think fun is something that's timeless, and I hope it's endless too, everybody. So utilize that hashtag work trends if you want to share thoughts about this concept, by the way. So tell me, why doesn't the traditional nose to the grindstone workplace culture not work well in today's workplace?
Well, the workplace has really changed dramatically. We refer to it as the movement. Some people call it the, workplace revolution. But certainly the influx of millennials has had a major impact. And I know some people are tired of hearing about millennials. Yeah. I happen to love, that population. And I love that they're change agents and the first population that is really demanding some change, and not in an obnoxious way, just the fact that they they want a sense of purpose and, collaboration and recognition, all the things that we all want. These are universal things. Doesn't matter how old you are. Everybody would like to have fun and flexibility, and some of the characteristics that are typically associated with millennials, but they are driving a lot of the change simply because they are making a choice to work in an environment where there's a great culture and, fun environment versus a traditional hierarchical business setting, which is really becoming passé. So. Yeah. That probably represents most of the change that's gone on, but it's been brewing for some time. And
yeah, I was just going to say that, Nick. I mean, this, a lot of people like to say the millennials, and frankly, like half of my friends are millennials. I happen to be a Gen Xer, right? There is some context that goes into that. Like, when were you born? What did you experience when you were coming of age? How has your workplace or workforce or employee experience shaped some of that? Right. But I think, we're sort of at a place now where, I think millennials are just getting tired of being called millennials. I think we're all in this together personally. But there's no question that generational expectations helped change this. I also personally believe that digital media helped push this along and sort of get it into the forefront of the active conversation. So listen, let's talk about data a little bit, because a few years ago, the University of Warwick in the UK conducted a survey to measure the impact of happiness on employee productivity and found a 12% increase in productivity among happy workers. And guess what? A 10% decrease among unhappy workers. This is just one study of many of how employee attitude affects engagement and productivity. Given this, Nick, why aren't all companies paying attention to the workplace happiness and that whole thing? And most importantly, how it affects employees?
Yeah, so in our experience, and I am fascinated by that subject because this, comes naturally to me and other people in this movement, but there's still a relatively small percentage of companies that practice this and do it well. But what is getting everyone's attention is this data. And we get some panic calls now from companies going, oh my gosh, my competitor is hiring all the best and brightest. I can't even attract these young people anymore. What do I do? Get a foosball table? I mean, like they're literally...
And by the way, that's the lamest idea in the world, everybody. Foosball is very 10 years ago. Just saying.
Exactly. So, I think that this is such a major, culture shift. And as a lot of the boomers are exiting the workplace and they are in leadership roles, this change occurs over the period of, a decade or so. And most people, too, are put off a bit by thinking that, oh, I have to look like Google, or I have to look like Facebook or Zappos, or one of these other companies that get a lot of attention. But it's not necessary to make your workplace look like that, or to incorporate, some fun and humor, play, happiness in the workplace. It's not necessary to buy stuff or recreate your physical space. So that's what we encourage people, is that this should be small organic things that you can do to make major changes and impact. And people are usually very pleased and that's the case. But it's just a lack of information. They don't know that there's an alternative to traditional team building.
Well, and it's also, fun has to come from a real place. You can't force fun. You just can't. You could try, but a foosball table ain't going to cut it, right? So, now over to the flip side of this, we all know that companies that seem to do everything right, because frankly, they are always part of the conversation when discussing brands with a stellar reputation, right? In addition to being companies, others brands want to emulate. So tell us a few of them and how they built fun into their business model, even before they became successful. And I mean, I know you're going to bring up Zappos. That's cool. But, if you've got examples of other companies that are maybe a little more under the radar or we've never heard of, bring it on, Nick. We'd love to hear it.
Sure. So, there's a couple names that always get everyone's attention, Google, Zappos. And, I'll mention Southwest Airlines because they've probably been at this longer than anyone. And, I don't know if you're familiar with Southwest or, their culture, but, a lot of people have very pleasant things to say about their experience with Southwest Airlines. And the customer service level is exceptional, and they have consistently outperformed through all of the changes in the airline industry over the years. They have consistently outperformed, and they've been profitable all this time. So that's one company that's recognizable. What I would tell you is that there are thousands of companies that you've never heard of, whose names you would not recognize, who are doing this very successfully. Small companies, medium-sized company, any vertical market that you can imagine. And it's becoming, while again, still by a percentage of total companies, it's still relatively small, but it is growing quickly. So we interface a lot with, bigger name companies, and you'll recognize major hospital systems that are doing this. It's really big in patient care these days to make sure that staff at hospitals are, reducing stress and being able to really take care of patients. So big in hospital systems, but all kinds of industries and different size companies.
Speaking of Zappos, I understand that you recently partnered with Delivering Happiness Zappos. So do tell us, because, obviously I've been talking about Zappos for what feels like several years now, and that's a good thing. Tell us more about this partnership and what it has done for yourself, your brand, and Zappos.
Yeah, so I've admired that brand for, many years since I started in this business. And, Tony Hsieh started that company, with culture and happiness in mind. So there's nothing more generic than online shoes, right? Nothing sexy or glamorous about that business. But he built it with the idea in mind that I'm going to create, this amazing workplace, that will lead to, wow customer experiences. And so I've been admiring that brand. I've been a fan of Zappos, and I shop with them all the time. And the one time I had a bad, well, not even a bad customer experience, they shipped the wrong product. Their response was so delightful that,
What was it?
I almost wish that it would be either there'd be another, but it was, I got this call from, this representative, and it was in this whole Western theme, howdy partner, how's your day going, and the engaging, fun experience. And they not only replaced my shoes for free, and they gave me another pair, and, all this stuff. But I've always admired the brand, and as what I love about our industry is that we all share, right? So, people that are trying to move this forward are very willing to, share and communicate with each other. So in doing so with Jen Lim at Delivering Happiness and some of her associates, we just realized, wow, we are very complementary brands. And while Delivering Happiness kind of works from the top leadership down, we kind of live in the what they call the live and sustain portion of a contract after a customer has established their core values and their culture teams. We come in to help those values come to life. So it's really an awesome partnership. We're proud to be partners with them, and we're working on some really exciting things together. So the industry in general is doing some great things, and I see a really bright future. This is a win-win. Companies win, employees win. Companies become more profitable and productive. Like it's good for our economy. It's good for everybody.
So, I also believe that fun is a shared experience, and I think we share in a lot of different ways. And I think sharing means something probably a little bit different to me than it does you and other people. Why is it, in your viewpoint, and how did you come to develop this specific concept? Like, what was that about?
It's actually a cool story. So a young man who worked for us for years and still with us, Nat Measley, brilliant guy. And I sent him out years ago, probably 11 years ago. And I said, Nat, go find me universal fun. We're just going to create things around those 10 things and, we'll be wildly successful. And Nat loves to do research, and he came back and months later and said, Nick, I have good news, bad news. There's no such thing as universal fun. That's the bad news. The good news is the shared experience I found is a way to connect people and find these common experiences. So it became kind of the basis for what we do. We start there. We start with what's fun for you as an individual, and then what's fun for a department, a division, a company, and we find those shared experiences. So it's no more forced family fun or these creepy weird team building things. It's really based on what's fun for you and your culture, your environment. And it's going to be different. It will most likely look different between the sales department and operations. That's fine. It's okay. So let people have, the brand of fun that works for them in the context of their culture. So that's where we start. And we've done this exercise, shared experience, for 2 people, for 2,000. We've done it thousands of times, and it works every time. So it's, that's where it really looks different. Our model is where we really start with that basis of what's fun for you individually, and how can we connect that to you as a company and work from there.
Well, and it's also about flexing up. Like, I remember one time somebody was like, let's go play paintball. And I was like, paintball, huh? Not sure I'm really digging this. But you know what? I flexed up and said, I'm going to just give this a shot. Sure. No pun intended, by the way. And it was like, it was fun. Like, I didn't think it would be fun, but I'm sure that happens in these scenarios quite a bit. Like, do you see trends with, say, what software engineering teams see as fun versus the sales teams? Yeah, like, tell us what we're doing. What are people doing for fun, basically? Yeah.
So all kinds of things. And one of the really important elements of, this shared experience is we call it all-inclusive and non-threatening. So you let people participate at the level they're comfortable with. And I'll use paintball as an example where, that could sound intimidating and scary for some people, right? But
well, especially now, by the way, it's like, right? Never a dull moment.
Pretty awful to me. But anyway, if ultimately that's what people decided, how could you adapt something like paintball that you could play, not on an actual paintball field with rifles and stuff, but how could you adapt that to be something that you could do in an office environment where everyone could participate? Or someone might just want to observe or cheer their team on or whatever, but you allow people to participate at the level they're comfortable with. And I often use an example of dance because for, some people dance is intimidating. They're not going to do it. But we had a customer who determined that dance was one of the things that they as a company, 150 people, found as a common shared experience. And it happened so that, some people like to dance, other people like to watch Dancing with the Stars or whatever. But that company takes a 3:00 dance stop.
Oh, that's awesome.
Every day. They started it once a month.
That's totally awesome. Like, can I show up here seriously? Like, I'm a huge dance fan. Awesome. See, that's what we want to hear about, right? And let me ask you this, Nick G. Does this relate to laws of fun and box of fun? Tell us more about that and how that relates.
Yeah, so our laws of fun, were really developed over the history of delivering fun in the workplace and delivering a lot of it, and things that are universally true about fun in the workplace. So laws of fun sounds like an oxymoron, right? Like laws of fun, that doesn't sound
I know,
right.
Like that doesn't sound fun, just saying.
But they are the universal truths. And the very first one is leadership buy-in, right? So when leaders are bought in, we're successful 100% of the time. If leaders are not bought in and we're trying to force it up from the bottom or something, it's about 50 to 60% successful. And it might live in one department or one area where a leader buys in, but it won't translate through the rest of the organization. So leadership buy-in, and then doing things consistent, on company time, and compliant. They're the 3 C's. So consistent means like once a month, 15 to 30 minutes once a month is what we recommend. Again, compliant with your culture. And then we also say, fun for all the senses. So pay attention to things like the environment, maybe step away from your cubicle and go out to the atrium, or if it's a beautiful day, go outside. It should be fun for all the senses, and, it should smell good, look good, taste good, all that. So, those are less important than the first 4, but that's the laws of fun. And then the box of fun was really born out of, again, delivering a lot of fun physically in the workplace and knowing what works and what doesn't work. And we took our best ever and we curated those into a box and we shipped them to companies. So, instructions and props and supplies.
How to have fun. I mean, is this funny or what?
So, yeah, everything that you need.
Here you go.
It's a great entryway to experience some fun. They're designed for, 15 to 20 minutes of fun, and they're reusable, and people love them. So, so we try to find a solution for everybody, so we can teach you how to do it, teach you model and process, ship you or physically deliver it.
Hey, some people need help having fun. Have at it, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So listen, you've gotten our listeners' attention today. What can everyone do to get some fun into their organizations? And tell us, is this time consuming and or expensive?
Another great question. So it's not, expensive. One of the things that we really promote are doing things that are, small, easy, and organic, that do not require expert facilitation. So when we design and, with companies in a workshop and we're designing activities, and maybe football is something that they like, well, we're going to adapt football to a place where everybody can play. It can be in the office. We're going to modify that game to be, 10 to 15 minutes and, easy, accessible, with props and supplies that are probably under $100, things that you have around the office that you can adapt. And once people get in this creative mindset, we send them through the paces of identifying the forums, the themes, the activities, and the follow-up. There's the 4 pillars. They get really proficient at designing these programs. They can do it in 5 minutes or less. So it's following a process. It's easy, it's simple, and it's affordable. So it's not what people perceive as fun necessarily, like these big elaborate team building events.
Yeah.
not that. And that's not what employees want anymore.
I was just going to say, thank you for bringing, that's so refreshing. People nobody wants to feel forced. And to me, it's just always felt forced. Right. So listen, thanks for joining us today, Nick, and for bringing some FUN fun to this week's Work Trends event. We're going to be continuing this conversation immediately following this podcast on Twitter using the hashtag Work Trends. And if you want to throw in there some fun hashtags, we welcome it. So please join Nick and I as we continue this conversation. And last but never ever least, a big thanks to my talent culture friends and sponsors. Thanks for listening to Work Trends from Talent Culture. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And I'd be really grateful if you took a moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes. It helps other people find our show. If you know someone who would enjoy listening, please share it with them. You can learn more about the future of work at talentculture.com.